another segment of our Facebook Live. This is Dr. Noah Liu, and I'm down here in Florida, Miami, Florida, right after the hurricane season. And I'm here joined by my good friend and buddy, Tom Bibi Varghese. I'm down here. If you guys know about dental implants, I'm here for an implant course in Miami, Florida with full arch raw guys. And it was a great first day. So last night, I kind of landed a little bit late here around 3 a.m. because of all the storm. So it was a rough day, but hey, made it through and still here kicking it off live here with you guys and just talking about real estate because this is my passion and I want to make sure that we can provide optimal value. So, Tom, man, let's go and introduce and let's get started.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So excited again to come to you guys live on our Thursday lives, Facebook Live. Last week we were in North Carolina, right? And had a great time over there. And today it's all about real estate as usual. We'll talk about some of the things that you can do to get started and get your first property and buy your first investment property. My name is Tom Bibiwargis. I am a good friend and partner of Dr. Noah Liu, and we do this live every Thursday without fail, regardless of where we are. And we try to
Hmm.
come online and give you some tips on how you can get started. So let's go.
Now, before we get started, I definitely want to bring up our August 16th event that Tom and I we're going to be on a panel with Glenn Bow and Johnny Walker, who's also running his own group with real estate. So this whole thing is about passive investment. And I think any of you guys who are on the fence are looking at last minute thing. We still have one ticket. So Johnny kind of almost sold out. So you guys definitely want to look it up. Is this, what is it? This next week,
It's this
Friday,
this this not tomorrow, not this Saturday,
not
but the
tomorrow, but
not
Friday.
tomorrow, but the Friday after. So in a week, guys, we'll see you in Dallas. And like Noel was saying, if you want to attend, we have a free ticket available just for the people who are watching the live. So if you're interested, just
Mhm.
DM Noel or myself, and you will be on your way to that event attending free.
Absolutely, and especially when you're in the area. If you're near Dallas, near Houston, if it's just like an hour or 2 hour drive, definitely. If you want to come in and you are interested in the healthcare and definitely want to come and learn something, or just come and meet people and network, this is a great opportunity. So make sure you hit us up, DM us, and we will be more than happy to assist you with that free ticket. So, with that being said, let's kick it off with our real estate live here. So today we are talking about fourplexes. Fourplexes, it's one of those things where it's in the middle of a very fine line because it's not too big because, with all the scalability issue that we may have, such as keeping a management or trying to run it. But the good part is anybody can get started. So that is a great part about fourplexes. So what I always tell Tom is maybe we should buddy up. We should get a fourplex each and just have one management and have a eightplex this way. Or maybe four people can buddy up and have four fourplexes, kind of in the surrounding area as a portfolio, and then have
Mhm.
16 units. The only reason one of those things where we say is it's kind of not scalable is because of the fact that it cannot afford its own management. But with that being said, anybody can get started. So Tom, I'll ask you this here. How can someone get started with a fourplex and what is the main advantage that we have with lending right now?
Yeah, so with fourplexes, you're in a very sweet spot right now. Again, you can buy it with cash, in which we don't recommend, but you can always go get a loan, and you can get a loan with 5% down and rent all the units and make
Hmm.
money and pay the loan and also get cash flow. So there are some very attractive lending options available from the FHA to buy that property, and that was never been there. It started in 2023, end of 2023, and it's a lot of people are buying properties like that. So even if the FHA was not in play, it is still a great option to go and acquire a fourplex or fiveplex or something like that. Now with fourplex, here's the thing. It won't be considered as a commercial property.
Hmm.
So the good thing about that is you can approach almost any bank to get financing. Once it is over five, it is considered as commercial, which means only specific banks would do it. I don't think Chase and Bank of America, they may not touch it, but your local banks, like smaller banks, would do it. But with fourplex, almost any bank out there would finance it because it's not considered commercial yet. And like we always say, if you're starting out in real estate or starting out in life, you should not be buying a house to live in. You should house hack your way by
Love
buying a
it.
quadplex or triplex or twoplex or duplex and live in one, rent the other ones out, and pretty soon you will find that you're making a lot of money, and you can refinance it someday or sell it for a good profit and then buy a bigger house later on. What do you think?
100% agreed. Agreed. So the other day, my wife was looking at Crexy and she was like, "Hey, I see this really cool fourplex. Um,
Where
you
was
know, it
it
was a
at?
Chicago. It was in Chicago. It was near UIC.
Mm.
You know, the thing was, there's so many listings out over there in Crexy and LoopNet that once when you start looking into it, it starts just starts showing you more and more and more. So
Hmm.
this was a pretty darn good looking property, man. I mean, it was Class A location, but the downside was it was almost like $1 million a door.
Million
Yeah,
dollars a door.
$1 million a
So
door.
so
So she was asking me,
how big is the apartment?
shoot, man, I think it was like 3 bedrooms or, with like, I don't know, like a full garage and everything, like a
Okay.
double decker kind of deal. And then I'm looking at it and then I'm trying to make sense of it, right? It's $4 million for fourplex. And and what is the minimum? What is the maximum that you can borrow with a 5% down?
Man, I knew that right on the top of my
What
head. I don't know,
was it
but
3 million? Was it 3 million they Fannie
yeah, it
Mae
was
said the
like
other
three.
day?
It was pretty big. It was not small. It was not a small amount. It was a pretty decent size amount. You know.
So yeah, so she kind of liked it, but I was like looking at it, but then investment wise, it was not kind of making sense.
So you know what I would recommend. So rather than buy in Chicago, right? Buy in Chicago in
Mm-hmm.
the suburbs. I would say like you should look at maybe Bloomingdale, Glendale Heights, or those areas that's got prime locations, because then you are not bound by the Cook County laws
Oh yeah, and the property tax.
and the property tax, and the other places it's easier to evict and all that stuff too. So I mean, Chicago market rents are super strong right now. I mean, it's amazing how much the
Yeah, it's
rents have
crazy.
gone up
But
in
the
Chicago.
only reason she was looking at this area was because of the school, the university. So basically, one of my nieces, she's looking into getting into UIC. So she's like, "Hey, what about like we have her as a tenant, and then we have three other tenants, which a lot of people do in house hacking,
That's a no
and
brain. That's a no brainer then. You know,
right.
I
But then
have a friend of mine. I have a daughter of a friend of mine. She's paying, I think, like, but she's got two other roommates, and I think they're paying like 3 grand or something in rent, or maybe higher, 3,500, something
it
like
is,
that.
it is
Yeah, and she's going to pharmacy school, so there's a lot of demand. And once you get these kind of people, they're stuck there for like 4 or 5 years guaranteed, right?
exactly, exactly. They're stuck 4 or 5 years, and then also they also kind of learn the business aspect. So with this particular deal, the owner is one of the occupants, and
Hmm.
they are selling it. And their one of their units is $4,200 a month. The other one is 38, and then I think there's one more at 3,200. So I did the math. Yeah, I mean, it's a good looking building. I would personally live in it. It was that
Hmm.
good, right? But
Oh, good. Mm.
the only downside is it was not making financial sense because that investment, that return on investment, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with that market. So there was
Mm.
another one, which is like the bottom of the barrel. It was about $74,000 a unit, four
Really?
units. Right. So we got $1 million and we got a 74,000.
But how
And
far
then,
how far apart is the location?
oh yeah, I mean, it wasn't that great of a location, but it was a good investment. Needed a
But
lot of
is it
rehab.
a gentrifying area? Like, is it new developments coming over there? Because whole Chicago, certain pockets are getting
It
gentrified.
is.
Yeah, I mean, I that would have a higher chance of appreciation than the other one, right?
But then that's the thing, like we always talk about real estate, and I was explaining to her the same thing. I was like, we got to look at the crime rate, the school. We
Yeah.
have to look what's near, what kind of job, what's the rent control like? Is there how strict are they? and like you said, Cook County. So we kind of put everything into perspective, right? Is the money going to make sense? So here's my deal about house hacking.
Mhm.
Everything that we can, like invest in, it would be under an LLC. If it's under an LLC, we treat it like a business. And if it's
Yeah.
treated like a business, it's an entity. Everything that we spend on that, like property taxes or all the expenses for their operation, everything is pre-tax. So that is like a perfect loophole, I would say. And that's what I'm thinking. I would say if anybody's looking into moving into like a school area where they're going to be going to school for 4 to 5 years, like you said, Tom,
Yes,
invest in one
absolutely,
of
man. Yeah.
these.
Chicago
Right.
is interesting. One block could be really, really nice, and one block down could be complete opposite. So,
Yeah.
these variations, you'll find some of these are super expensive areas and hard to find anything over there. So, the thing is, one thing is guaranteed is even if you overpay in those areas, like, a million, almost $1 million in a condo, you can always sell it back for the same amount. Or, I mean, you
100%.
you won't lose. So, but if you go and buy in an area that's not that good, you might have a real big problem selling down the line. So that's
Hmm.
what you got to keep in mind. You always have to think about your exit before you
Before you
enter.
get in.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So, Tom, tell me this here real quick. So when we look at a property, so she found out they were asking $4 million. I did the rent calculation. One was 3,200, one was 38, and one was 42. So I don't know exactly what the owner is paying, but I guess we can figure it out.
Mm.
So when I did the NOI and we did the whole math and we did like, let's say a 50% expense, by the time we were done, so basically the owner is doing his own management. So when we did that, we divided by the cap rate. So tell me something, how do we get a hold of cap rates for somebody like, let's say, a newbie looking into like some of these fourplexes? How would they find out?
Yeah, great question, right? So basically, you're asking, how would we know about the cap rates in an
Right.
area, right?
Because especially with the interest rate went up and down, kind of fluctuating, and it's just rising right now. How would we know a cap rate?
Yeah, so that's a great question, guys. Cap rate is, let's say you bought a property with full cash. For those of you who don't know what a cap rate is nothing but the return you will make on a property if you paid cash on it. For
Mm-hmm.
example, if you purchased a property for $100,000, let's say a condo, you purchased it for $100,000, and you're making $6,000 a year after everything, not including your debt payments. That is 6% return on your 100,000 that you invested in. That's 6% cap rate. So that's what Noel is saying here. What is the cap rate? So usually the cap rates, if it is A class properties like this one, it's about 4-5% right now. But back in when the market was heating up, you could be like 3.5%. Now, this is a really difficult thing to do now because the interest rates have gone up.
Right.
So, for example, if the bank is saying, I can loan you money on this property at, let's say, for example, 5%, okay? That means you got to make at least 6% return on your money to make a 1% profit.
Mm.
So, that's the hardest thing. So now these kind of properties are expensive like this. These are class A properties. So the cap rates will be low. The reason it's low is because these properties appreciate pretty fast. So people are buying really for the location and the appreciation, not so much for the cap rate. So what happens is now you got to do the math and ask yourself, can you sustain a 5% cap rate? I'm guessing, no, this is probably, he's trying to sell it for a 5% cap rate or something. And sometimes these guys who are selling lesser than 6 units, they don't even care about cap rate because they're like, I built it for this much, I want to make this much.
Correct.
And that's what it is. So really you got to ask yourself, if I'm going to rent it out and if I have cash flow coming in, and if the bank is loaning today, you can't get a loan for less than 6.5%. So if the cap rate is 5%, am I going to be able to sustain that 1.5% loss every year?
Mm-hmm. No,
Right?
100%. 100%. And I think this is something we can dive in a little bit more on our next segment because, the cap rate and what was traded for, and also the fact is how does it follow interest rates. So these are some of those things I would really like to dive in a little bit more. But,
Yeah, one other thing, no, like in these cases, mostly I think they go with comparables, like
yes,
what is
they
the
treat it
next
like,
door?
yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. They treat it like a single family home, right?
yeah, cool.
So,
It's
so
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what were we saying, Tom?
No, no, go ahead. You were going to say that in the next segment we can cover that, right?
Next segment, I would like to cover a little bit more deeper into the fourplexes and a little bit more deeper into some of our new members who just joined on how do you figure out what is the value of that property based on the rent that we can find on rent.com or maybe even on Zillow. And how do we find out what it was last traded for? Some of the questions we can ask a broker and some of those steps that we can take to do the preliminary, like napkin underwriting, before we actually get in a deal and spend too much time. So I know next week it's our event in Dallas, August 16th, which is a Friday. So if you guys are there, definitely let's meet up. And our Thursday night live will be right night before the event. So we can definitely try to see if we can do something live from Dallas. Right, Tom?
Absolutely, guys. And if you are in Texas or nearby Oklahoma, whatever, and if you have to fly down too, like Noel and I, we flew down to North Carolina just for a one night event. So this event that Dr. Johnny is doing is going to be an amazing event because you're going to meet a lot of great people like yourself, and you're going to meet partners, friends. You're going to connect with brokers, people who are doing things that you aspire to do, some of the heavy hitters, and the network that comes with it. It's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
great
Mm-hmm.
time where you're going to learn, we're going to connect with people. I would highly encourage anybody who's interested to learn more, to connect with people, to come and meet us. We'll be there. No, and Dr. Noel and myself will be there. We'd love to come. We would love to meet the members of our group in person, and that would be a great thing if you can come and join and meet us in person. Right, Noel? What do you think?
Absolutely. And that's where the magic happens when you network and you meet a lot of people. Most of them may be, not so meaningful, but you just need that 1 or that 2% of people that you're going to meet. That's going to make all the difference. So, with that being said, we're going to call it a night and land the plane. Once again, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys like and also hit us up with any questions. And we still have that one ticket. So, see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Take care.